be able to see. Okay, so I think we're asked to introduce Borobudur. I do not know if people know of this monument in Indonesia. It's one of those places that literally is out of this world. I remember the first time I saw it when I was helping with the back. We have a project in the 16,000 Buddha we call the Back Project. It's this. We're hoping to be a monastery on the east side of CDB. That if people have been to 16,000 Buddhas, we have our main campus on the side. In the back, we have another potential campus, and we're trying to build a structure. But I remember helping with that, and then one time somebody showed these images of this place. I was like, wow, this is what we're supposed to build in terms of the spirit of something. And it's like the, you would say it's like the Avatamsaka Sutra. If people know, it's the Sutra of the Dharma realm, the Dharma Buddha Association, like the vast, expansive mind embodied in a monument. And you'll see what I mean when we start going through the pictures. So this is Borobudur. The DRBU extension team went as a group to visit in January 16th to 18th. It's in Indonesia, next to Yoga Yukta. Sorry, it started with a Y. The city started with a Y. And we stayed in a small it's a nice hotel nearby that actually is the caretaker. That's not the hotel, that's actually Borobudur. But you can see the magnitude of this place. It's almost like a small mountain, but the whole thing is a Buddhist stupa. So if you look at it, it's actually a spiritual teaching in stone. You have the first level on the bottom is kind of the samsara realm, and we have little release here that you'll see they're like suffering living beings on the bottom, going through various like happy, sad, all the different emotional states. And then this cycle goes up. So if you go up this monument, it's like a pilgrimage. It starts with the Buddha's life stories, and then there's the like Buddha's past life stories, like the Jataka tales. So you have a lot of those Jataka tales. And then it goes around again, and there's the Buddha's life story, and there's other stories of other people, good and bad, as these lessons of life. And then after that, it goes up another level. And if people know the Avatamsaka Sutra, it tells the journey of Sudana. Sudana, which is a young pilgrim in the Avatamsaka Sutra, who goes and visits 53 different spiritual teachers. And so the whole next level of release is him going to visit each of those teachers. So that's kind of, some people describe it, the first realm is the desire realm, where we're kind of in. And then that's kind of the form realm, where Sudana's going on this journey. And then he actually goes finally to the final teacher, which is Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. And then it kind of opens up, and he goes to Maitreya's tower. People know Maitreya Bodhisattva is the kind of next Buddha to be. He gets there, he goes into his tower, which you could say is, I think, probably the closest. If people know the analogy of Indra's net, where you have like if you imagine a net, and each net interstice has a pearl, and every pearl reflects every other pearl on the net, and you can actually see that pearl in itself reflected back. So it's like an infinite reflection on each pearl of everything else on the net and itself into itself. Can you imagine that? I don't know. So that's kind of what the tower's imagery is. So when you go into the tower, you see the Bodhisattva Maitreya rescuing living beings on massive scales. And so the whole next level are images of reliefs of those scenes all around next level. And finally the top are these kind of stupas, but they're covered. And so you go, oh, there are these stupas here. And when you look inside, you see there's actually Buddhas through the crevices, if you look through, there's actually Buddha sitting in meditation, and the top's kind of like the formless realm, and then kind of nirvana. And so this stupa is actually like a story about cultivation. So it's a really huge place. You can see, it's pretty stunning. I don't know if anybody, Megan, I see Megan and Jason are both here. If you want to add anything, please do. Okay, but you don't have mics. Okay, so this is the place. You can see that the mess. That's a massive structure. I think it was something like 1,400 years ago, right? That's so it's like 700, 700, 800, 700, 800, 80. The whole thing. You can go. We walk around the. Yeah, we can walk around the whole thing. To be real honest, there are not very many Buddhists who go. It's all. It's we'll see in the slide. But it's mostly Muslim children, school kids, and actually we were more of a show than the monument for them. When they saw us, especially Jason, they were really excited. So they all want to take pictures with him. Yeah, so it's pretty. Well, what I think happened, if people know, Indonesia is a Muslim country, and so over time, this is kind of a cultural heritage site. They don't have any Buddhist background, so then they go as their kind of class field trip. The site, they just kind of run up the top. You know, they run around the place, and then they see Jason and they see some of the monks, and they want to take pictures with us. But there's not many Buddhists. Yeah, there's an admissions fee, which I actually don't know how much it was. $25. Yeah, $25 for a day. Yeah, to go in.
We actually stayed in the hotel that was really close to the temple. And if you ever get a chance to go, it's really worth it to stay there because the hotel also cares for the grounds and the landscaping and everything. And so if you stay there, you can go in and out to Borobudur Temple as many times as you want. It's basically included with the stay. So it allowed us to go. We went up for sunrise, and then we would, come back, and then, have some coffee or tea or something, and then we could go back out and, come back for lunch and, go and really get to kind of study it.
And then actually, when you have the tea on the outside, their little kind of dining area actually looks out, and you can see Borobudur right out next to you. So they're right next to it. They're literally the caretakers of the place. So the hotel's a little bit more expensive, I think, but it's the kind of admissions fee is included in and you can go back and forth. They even have a separate entrance for people at the hotel to go into the place. So the first thing we did is we circumambulated around Borobudur, just to pay our respects. And so you can see Dharma Master Jing He, myself, Jason, Flavia. This is Feng, Megan, Ken. Mostly we have got DRBU extension team. We plan a lot of the retreats. So we went as a group. And I think my feeling walking around it is that the place has a kind of a spiritual charge to it that I don't know how to explain, but it's definitely an energy center. When I'll show you some other pictures, it's a little bit mystical feeling. It's like in this valley, and there's like this fog, and it's like literally another world. But you kind of have this sense of this interesting energy. And then the other thing I was very struck by is the Muslim children are actually very respectful towards other religions. So as we were circumambulating, and we walked by them, they would actually shh, shh, shh. They quiet, and they walk by, and then they'd start talking again, So, yeah, so there's the steps. The steps are actually very big. It's kind of a little bit hard to climb up. But you can see the size of it. You can see there's the steps going up. It's Flavia. Flavia directly. So Flavia just immediately went to the top. Usually you go around, so she just went straight up. So we have a picture of Flavia going. Flavia had a lot of energy. As you can see, what I mean by it's like a little bit like not quite in this world when you're in the place and you're looking at like something is here. Something is here. So you can see this misty kind of fog. Right, these are the stupas. This is from the top. If you look down, this is the entrance. So people would literally go on pilgrimage in the past, and they would travel, from probably all over the area, and then they would go to another temple in front, another temple, cross a river, and then this would be the entryway. They'd come up this way, up to Borobudur. Yeah, you can see the Buddha right. One of the Buddhas right here. That was opened. Yeah, so that's you have a feeling of the campus. So each of these have Buddha images inside of them. And you can see that the landscape around it is very stunning. Yeah, pretty clear. And the images are really well done. They have the kind of, I don't say very gentle features. It's like, I don't know, there's a very, you can just see from this Buddha image, like a little gentle smile. And this is like, what, 1600 years? Right? Or what, 600, 700, 1400 years, right? And you see these Buddha images. So we kind of went inside one of them. Yeah, this is during sunrise. You have to pay extra, I think, in the morning. So they let you in something like at 4 a.m. And then you wait there for the sun to rise. They give you a flashlight so you can walk up. It's pitch black. And it's pretty much a photographer thing. As I said, there's not many Buddhists. It's interesting to see. It's pretty much Islamic school children and maybe some photographers. We were one of the few Buddhists, so we were actually kind of a sight as well for a lot of the people. They took a lot of pictures of us. Yeah. These little Muslim kids will come up and say, selfie, selfie. Yeah. Yeah, universal. So this is we spent the morning meditating in the morning, but you can see again the mist coming up. Yeah, there are some Korean guys who came and they just were playing around, pretending to meditate next to us. Was what we were told by the rest. Me and Jing Husher were sitting there, and then getting Kin and the rest of the team said, "Yeah, all these people came by and they're like pretending to pose next to you." So, so then you see the Borobudur. And okay, so we just got the sense of the space, right? But then every wall is covered with very detailed reliefs that are very stunning. So we actually got a book that described, each relief, what was the story, so that we can understand what's going on. Because otherwise, we would be very hard to know what's happening. Okay, so this is the very bottom. I mentioned the very bottom, kind of in the life in samsara. So these are people who are sad. Next to them, there are actually some people kind of having a party. So it's just kind of interesting to have a lot of these different scenes about life in the world. Oh, this is one of the reliefs. But you could just see the kind of gentleness and the it just has a very moving quality to them, right? A lot of them are are kind of washed away because of the time, but you can still see the beauty. Yes, again, the kind of misty clouds. I don't think so. I don't think there was any feeling of paint at all. Yeah, just stone. Just stone. Well, I don't know what kind of. Yeah, there was definitely a whole study on the place, so there's definitely details on that. Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a volcano here. You can see that. Yeah, you can see the outline. Yeah, there's a volcano. Yeah, it was preserved by volcanic ash. So they discovered it. Hundreds of years, it was just covered over. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was buried. Yeah, 19th century they discovered it. So it's yeah, you can mean it's literally uncovered. So you can see these just the hallway, the images. This is actually I think very close to the because I think these are all Buddha images, the like 10 Buddhas. Or no, these are not. What? This is the upper level. Yeah, this is close to the top. It looks like these people below are praying, but the top one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. I think there's maybe 10 Buddhas on top. Is I think images of the Buddhas. Oh, so this is Samantabhadra Bodhisattva blessing Sudana at the very end of his journey, right? We were reading the book that Samantabhadra is often portrayed with. Is this I think lotuses or three flowers? He's holding a dharma implement with three flowers or four flowers at the end like that. And then here he's rubbing the crown of Sudana's head, right? And you see Sudana, a young man seeking the dharma, right? It's just if you just imagine if you came in 1400 years ago, what would it be like? And you didn't have any media, so this is like, you know, the closest thing to art that you probably see because your life is mostly farming and living in the wilderness or the farm or the city. Here's a close up. I took a shot. You can just kind of get a sense of if Sudana was being blessed. This is Sudana bowing to a teacher. You see down here, Sudana as a pilgrim going to bow to probably some teachers over here. Yeah, he's bowing. This is, I think, Maitreya Bodhisattva. I'm not sure what he's doing in this one. I think maybe feeding people. People are maybe asking for something. I think that's what it is. Oh no, this one's him feeding people. I remember so this is Maitreya Bodhisattva feeding the hungry. When he was in the tower seeing Maitreya Bodhisattva practicing the Bodhisattva path, this is the images around that top. Okay. So this is the Muslim school children. Yeah. So they all want to take pictures. So this is the pathway out to the back to the hotel. But it's also very nice surrounding area. They did very good landscaping. This is the hotel, which also has a really nice architecture. I thought, wow, this if we were to build things like this in the West, it somehow, I don't know, it has a spiritual quality that seems to transcend East and West. A lot of the Chinese Buddhist architecture has a kind of imperial Chinese feel, which I don't know, it's like Western spiritual sensibilities doesn't quite uplift in a way, but somehow this architecture really does. It has a simplicity, but a kind of elegance at the same time. So you see, they have a lot of walkways. This is the hotel. This is their hotel area landscaped. Yeah, and then this is a little tea area, and you look out in this Borobudur out on top. If I explained it.
is to shock the psyche, in a sense, to wake up from the dream, the illusory dream, and say, here's a portfolio of what's really going on. And you circle, you get Borobudur, and you're circling the desire realm again and again. It's like, oh, wasn't I here before? Deja vu. Yep. And another you go around. So it's meant to express reincarnation, not so much as a physical reincarnation, but a psychic circling of consciousness that one gets stuck in. And it takes some effort, if I remember it. Well, when I was there, I had sunstroke, so it was really, I was like, yeah, I can take the jungle. I'm out here. And this monk I was with, no, when you put on a straw, I don't want a straw hat. I don't. And the sun just came down, and then I got sunstroke. And so I was wandering Borobudur with sunstroke. So it was a hyper hallucinatory experience. But I do remember going up wasn't so easy. I mean, you're walking around the desire realms, no sweat. You're just walking on the, go around. You have to make a little effort to go up to the next form realm. And as you saw, I don't know, the steps. Yeah, they're big steps. You got to be in shape, and it's hot and humid. I don't know if you conveyed that.
Yeah, it's pretty hot.
Pretty hot and humid.
Yeah.
And each time you go up, it gets a little steeper. I noticed it got a little steeper, and the steps are wider. And then the last entrance through is really tight and small to get the form realm. So it's supposed to manifest how to get to that top requires both effort and focus and a shedding. And as you go up, you get to that top. So it has, many, many dimensions to it. And I'm just amazed to hear you guys say it still works. It still has that evocative effect. I'm guessing, now I never thought about this before, but I would say we are blessed with volcanoes. Because without that volcano, I suspect this thing wouldn't have survived. Very interesting.
Do you know, has anyone figured out its history pre-volcano? Was it an active monastery at some point? Did the volcano put an end to that?
Well, when I was there, there were still some active monasteries around there, because we stayed with some monks and had, we didn't stay at a hotel, we stayed at a little way place there. But I think over the years, what's interesting is that religions come and go, but the artifacts or the imagery is still left behind. I mean, you can go to Greece and you see something that might have been that isn't anymore, but all the flesh and bone is gone. All that's left is the stone and marble to indicate that there was something else. And your imagination has to go, what was this like? I don't know the history exactly, but I'm guessing it was a fairly active place at the time. You certainly get that, and that there were still monasteries there, and we had offerings that were made. I was a monk at the time. We had offerings I made from the lay people. So there was probably a very active community supporting this. But my guess is it was probably more or less a pilgrimage site that you would go to, and Sudana being the theme of this, the virgin youth who's in quest of enlightenment, and he goes from 52, sometimes 55 different teachers in a sequence. This is meant to cause people not just to reflect on Sunada, but to ask themselves, quo vadis, where am I going? Well, I'm not on a pilgrimage. Well, in a sense, there's no solid ground under your feet. We're on a pilgrimage whether we want to be or not. It's the question, is it a conscious pilgrimage, or are we just being drifting around? But there's no sort of stable non-pilgrimage. And so the idea is to sort of consciously ask, where is it I'm going with my life? What am I doing? It's a time for people to pause and reflect, a kind of retreat in a sense, but in a pilgrimage sense. So I think that's probably in the private purpose. The monks probably maintained the place and kept a kind of atmosphere around it. I'm guessing too, as all sacred pilgrimage sites, you're asked to drop your bad habits at the doorstep. So the smoking and drinking and carrying on and so forth doesn't happen there. So indirectly, you're into a pure space. And that pure space, even for some people, it's 5, 10, 15 minutes, is enough to change their consciousness. If you're really caught up and outflowing, 15, 20 minutes of that not happening can be a cosmic, collapse of some sort of opening. So I think people probably went and came back refreshed, came back a little bit reoriented. Anyhow, don't go there with sunstroke though. It's just a totally different experience. I've never seen the aerial before.
Yeah, we didn't see it from the air. I just looked on the drones.
But you can also see that that's a mandala.
Yeah.
If you look at it from the top, you can see a mandala. And the actual mandalas, using mandalas, a meditation technique can enter you into that dimension. But in a sense, if you do it right every Friday night for the time we sit, you're creating a pilgrimage Borobudur type experience in your own consciousness. You are unplugging and letting things settle. And in that moment of settling, you go into a different space. And that different space is not necessarily an altered space of consciousness, but rather from what we're saying, it's a renewal of fundamental consciousness. And then when you leave it, then you go into the illusory altered state of consciousness called outside. No, I'm serious. When you have to start thinking in this way, if we're going to get free, is to think what we take to be the real world is in fact a construction fabrication of this consciousness that's a little confused. And when that fabrication can stop even momentarily, a deeper real thing opens up. And again, that's where we're going to go tonight, but we didn't get there. But we'll go there next time because in his own experience, this monk that's coming in has a similar thing going on. So, now, questions? Anybody? I mean, you accumulated questions over the last, I don't know, what, 3-4 months during the break? Anything you want to ask about? Meditation, text? Going once? I know you have questions. Going twice? Nobody? Weren't some of the stupas empty?
I think they were all
On the top?
I think they all had a movement.
Really?
Yeah.
But the main one in the middle,
Yeah.
that one is empty.
That's what they took it out. Took it out.
That's the one in the museum.
That was a museum.
Huh. Okay, yes.
I'll ask a question. We've been talking about the direct teaching of Dharma as a technique used by the Sixth Patriarch. It's kind of ironic that he was the last of the lineage of the patriarchs. And I'm curious as to when one is practicing and making the transformation, we don't have that kind of, we don't have a master here to teach us other than the teachers that we have, but no one that has passed down through that lineage. Can you talk about that a bit? Is that just happenstance, or was I understand that there was some intent in that regard?
If I could, everybody understand his question? Okay, so there's layers to what you're asking. One is, it wasn't that there wasn't a transfer or carrying on of the lineage of this direct teaching. In fact, there was. It wasn't going to go to one individual. So you remember when he got it from the fifth patriarch, he was told his life was in danger and not to pass on that particular robe and bowl, but not pass on the teachings. So just to shoot ahead just a little bit to what's chapter 10, which we will get to in due course. As he's about to pass away, he calls together a number of the disciples, and they're listed here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 disciples are called together, have been studying with him. He says, you are different from the others. After I pass away, you should each go and become a master in a different region. So, and then the chapter goes on. But in a sense, rather than passing on to one individual, which was not very wise at that point, given the competitive thing, 10 we know from this. And I'm guessing that this is not just all. These are 10 that are mentioned. So there has been, and there continues to be a passing on of this teaching, and how to do it, and when to do it, just from master to student, from master to student, and so forth, even into the present. So it's not like it's gone. Now finding a living teacher that embodies this as the Abatamsaka said, it's like looking for phoenixes and unicorns. Berkeley notwithstanding. Seems to be, maybe there's a lot more here, but be careful. Where it's advertised, it's not, and where it's not advertised, it might be. That being said, so it's not that it died out. It's not that he was the last teacher. He was just the last one to pass on the formal robe and bowl as a symbol of something. But the teaching continues. And he himself, you'll see, and there's these wonderful verses in there, he's basically, as he was passed on the fifth to the sixth, there's this almost fatherly, endearing quality. He said, and I'm passing this on to you. It's like the family inheritance, because you're worthy of it and because it's important to go on in the world. Please continue it. So there's almost a proliferation from him to 10 to more and so forth. I don't know if that answers the question. So, but the other thing that's very important about this, and you remember we got to this chapter, what's the role of a teacher? And this is raised very, very clearly in here, and he does this very careful analysis. He said, I'm not saying you need a teacher, because his teaching in of itself not denies that, but cautions against that. Because you have the nature, and because it's whole and complete, you should quickly realize that yourself. And you can realize it yourself. And only when you realize it yourself is it yours anyhow. But that being said, there are times when you could get really confused, and he says dissolute. And he means both morally and intellectually confused and totally upside down. Where without a teacher, without somebody holding a lamp up in that dark night, you would have no bearings. You'd never be able to reset your course. But you then use that as a catalyst to get yourself back in tune, to be able to listen to yourself, and then you can continue on your own. So he's saying only if you're totally upside down and confused would you have to rely on that good and wise advisor. But ultimately, the good and wise advisor within is that innate capacity you have, and that's what you need to activate. So it's a kind of a back and forth. There's dangers to this, because if you don't realize you need a teacher, you can get into hubris and arrogance and really go wrong and think, I can do this all on my own. On the other hand, you can get into a kind of passive dependence on other power, forever and ever hanging on to a teacher or to a teaching and feeling I don't have what it takes, I really need to have da-da-da-da-da, and then you get stuck with that. But we'll just leave it there. But actually, we're doing a text at one of our classes now where we're asking, where does authority reside within this teaching? And one of the opening lines is, when the Buddha's about to pass, he too announces. This is really interesting. They always announce beforehand they're ready to go. Yeah. So that's a sign of a good teacher. Unfortunately, by the time you get that message, they're already on the way out, so you missed it. You're a good teacher. In any event, the Buddha, before he's going, Ananda comes up and asks, and he's bereft. He's really, because the teacher's going to be going. He says, the Buddha says, don't be bereft. I never set myself up as a teacher to begin with. I was just expediently tying knots and going in samadhi. And by the way, when I'm gone, you will still have the Dhamma Vinaya to serve as your teacher. So he puts him back into both the moral discipline, the self-cultivation of your conscience, and then these actual teachings as a teacher that serves in absentia of a physical living teacher. But the premise of this is that if you do it well, if you deeply enter this, you will find the teacher. It's only to be feared that you read it superficially or not take it to heart. But by taking something like this to heart, that's one of the things my teacher said about this particular text. He says, this text has everything you need to know to be a Buddhist. And he said, and everything you need to know to be a Buddha. So if that's what that text has to offer us, then the question is, how do we suck that flavor out of that? And that to me is a more important question than whether the teacher's available. Because if the teacher let's say the teacher was here, not me, upstairs in a room, we haven't revealed or brought him out yet, or her. She's there, she's ready to go, and we're just saying, wait, we're going to wait for a special time. Even if that teacher were to come down and be here, if you weren't in that disposition to deeply go after this and go for the marrow of this, it wouldn't make any difference. The teacher would not have anything to say to you, and you wouldn't hear it. So it's like, when you're really ready, just one line, let the mind be unattached, clinging to others, boom, you go. And if you're not ready, this whole sutra is, it's just like one ear out the other. So there's, even the greatest teacher without that, whatever that is we're talking about, sometimes they call it the bodhicitta, this fiery, real, passionate resolve to get free and understand. Without that there, nothing catches. And when that's there, even a very simple teaching can take you across. So, good question. Any more? No, it's late. Time to get some rest. Announcements? Yes.
I'd be interested, given the simplicity of the Sixth Patriarch in the sense of kind of the directness, and also kind of what we saw with the overthrowing the other concept kind of vision, how those kind of work together. Because my sense is there's a kind of a sense of and the kind of emptiness and prajna, and then there's a sense of the wonderful existence of seeing everything. So I was wondering how that comes together. I was wondering if this we saw it and kind of some patriarchs, but getting a reflection of those two sides.
You said direct.
The direct method
Yeah.
in paper was so, in some sense, seems so simple.
Uh,
And then that concept which seems so not elaborate but expansive.
it's breathtakingly simple. It's so simple we run right past it. That at one level. That's why that directness is so good, why Borobudur is so good. It's right in our face all the time, but we complicate it, we dance around it, we don't. I mean, it really is. It's very simple. You just get alone with yourself and look what's going on in your heart and mind and straighten it out. We all know what's going on, but we do these dances. So in that way, it's very, very simple, very, very direct. You read the lives and autobiographies of monks and nuns when they encounter, you're just going, man, this is just like the sound of a hammer hitting stone. It's so simple, so direct. On the other hand, when that simple, direct letting go of the greed and the anger and delusion happens, then something incredibly wondrous opens that's beyond words and language that the Avatamsaka describes. The Avatamsaka is not describing getting there, it's describing what happens once you're there. And from that emptiness of letting go of everything which we feel is a loss, comes that true emptiness is the wondrous existence, because now everything starts to open its manifold, incredible state, which we cover over and don't see at all. But even that is presented not in the text as, oh, you want something really far out? It's just saying, thus. This is how it is when you open your eyes and take a look at the world. And if you don't open your eyes and take a look at the world, it's something else. Ironically, it's presented also not as mysterious, mystical, altered states, but this, as they really are. The Buddha says, like an apple in the palm of your hand, you see it this clearly. So when you read the Avatamsaka, and sometimes when you read the lives of monks and nuns who have achieved the state, they talk about it matter-of-factly. It's just like, he's sitting in the back, he went back to Poland, visited family, did his thing, came back. Okay? They describe going into these other realms, or being in these other realms in the same way. Oh, I just got back from the Tachita heaven. It's pretty incredible up there, the Buddha was reflection. And they don't see it as far out. Now that's really interesting. It only is far out when we see it dimly. But when we see it very clearly, it's not far out anymore. It's just as it is. It's natural. And that's why the Buddha is saying, my God, you people are in, you're frogs in a well. And you're thinking this is everything. I'm watching the news at night. I got the newest movie. Wow, I just got the Tesla car. And it's like, oh my God, you guys are way down there in your consciousness. And there's this manifest realm that is everywhere, all the time, present and around us. It's not like you go to get it, but we're myopically closed. So it's almost an irony. That world that seems to us mystical and far out and wondrous, they're presenting as, just matter-of-factly, that's how it really is. And so it's not like it's a shift in consciousness. When consciousness opens up, then it's just like, oh my gosh, that's just how it is. I don't know if that.
Yeah. And the first line said breathtaking, simple,
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Good questions. You guys are thunking. That's great. Don't thunk too much, but not too little either. Any announcements? Oh, by the way, thank you for that presentation. It was really quite nice to be back in Borobudur without the humidity and the mosquitoes.
So tomorrow we have 7:30 p.m. Osaka.
Hey, there we go.
Infinite Light Sutra, lecture by Jun Schweischer
and
and myself. And on Wednesday will be the class cancelled, the student dinner. So after this week, everything back to normal. All other classes are going like normal. So you can find more information in our websites, berkeleymonastery.org. And please come the next Friday.
Also, this is very direct. Seemingly simple, it's not. Once you start to peel through this and you can see this is really deep. Everything that the Avatamsaka contains is rooted and seated in these texts. So don't mistake that simple, direct language for not being profound. That's one thing. The other thing is, I've had a very strong affinity with the Avatamsaka Sutra. I came in to the monastery while that was being lectured, and it was just like coming home for me. It's a huge text. It's called the King Key. It's just a magnificently large text. It was the one text that Hamshir and I took on the pilgrimage with us. We took the whole sutra in a box, and every night by the oil lamp we would translate a passage. So we'd read it in Chinese. That was the only time he was allowed to talk. That's a wonderful relationship, by the way. It's the only time you're allowed to talk is just with the Avatamsaka Sutra. You're a lot of friends. We got along well. Read the line, and then we'd work to translate it, and we'd write it down. We just translated it night after night after night. And many experiences around that text. But that text started out as way out there, like in La La Land. And by the midway and towards the end of the pilgrimage, it was like this was a living person talking to us at night. So whatever it shifted wasn't that the text suddenly came alive, is that our consciousness shifted, and as a result of that, the text meant something. That being said, after we're done with this, the question is what's next on Friday night? Because we want to keep Friday night as a holding place. So, I don't know, maybe some Avatamsaka, if that sounds interesting. I know Saturday night is Avatamsaka. But there's particular sections of the Avatamsaka that I found really meaningful for me and very helpful. And maybe could bring that out in context of my experience with and share with you. But I just think it's just incredible, not incredible. That would be just gainsaying what I said. It's very average and normal. Okay, let's do the transference.